Hi guys, this is Ricciardi again with the monkey body. Today we'll be looking at archetypal postures, postures of repose, of rest, and postures of work for early humans. Basically spending a lot more time on the ground because we don't get to do this much in modern life. You know, sitting is something that really tightens our back body, tightens our hamstrings especially, kind of gets us to, we sort of live in a constantly tucked position that then after these become too tight, we're trying to lift out of without letting these kind of set in their full length again. So what I do is I oscillate between these postures because for me, I'm hypermobile. So when I kind of sit in one place for too long a period, my body tends to just get kind of grippier. It almost seizes a little bit. So for me, I just oscillate in these postures, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cycle through these. You can do these in any order you like. I just find that they help me to get in touch with the ground. They help me to kind of open and integrate my lower body, getting it to kind of talk to my spine a little better. So we're gonna start with just something simple. So this is called the long sit. These postures are taken from, I watched a video by a gentleman named Philip Beach, Philip with 2 L's, a gentleman from New Zealand, an osteopath who has studied primal movement in humans. And so I put these together in a combination that works for me, and I switch it up all the time, and this is something that we can do together. So the long sit first, legs out. It's important when you sit like this that it's not a question of, because we're in such deep hip flexion, we don't need to sit up like this because we're being pulled under right now. So it is sort of appropriate. You can let the sternum drop and you can hang in that fascial sling, sort of like you feel like you're almost sitting in a hammock a little bit. Okay? So in that posture, we can just rock back side to side, and I just want you to feel that sternum spiral with your weight shift proportionately. And these weight shifts, we just want to conceptualize all movement as a falling in a direction, a yielding, so that there's always a softening in tension, and that allows those deep little muscles to wake up, kind of like we learned in that primal rolling routine. So now we can just start walking. It's just sort of walking on the butt, shifting our weight back and forth softly. You can use your hands a little bit too if that just helps things to kind of free up a little bit. We can walk back a little bit. Trying not to make it a grippy experience, really, energetic. Just kind of soften into it. Let the weight shift take care of most of the movement. And we'll come forward. And we'll walk back a bit. And then sometimes I like to let I sort of call this the leaves of the book. So we let them fall as the hip rolls a little bit. I want you to notice rolling on the hard surface of the mat as you do this. And it's a soft, slow roll. If we have any stutters in the range, we just want to notice those because it means something larger, a larger group of muscles are sort of gripping to help throw you through that range instead of letting there be a softening for the little finer muscles to wake up and subtly move us. So we're just slowing it down. We can exhale into it. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, and exhaling. Remembering that it's really about the slow with the softening gesture, and that's what gives you deep core. That's what gives you deep control in the body. And then you can just flip around because this weight shift ultimately becomes locomotive. You'll automatically start to go forward because of the spiral in the pelvis right now. So my pelvis is going like this at the moment. Then sometimes I like to take it to the seiza position, sort of the Japanese sitting posture, where we have the foot in plantar flexion, so sort of a soft pointed foot, and we're letting the heels kind of cradle the butt. And I rock back and forth in this position. And if I use my hands to support that soft falling in each direction, it's never pushing through the fingertips, it's never pushing through the heel of the palm. I want us to connect through that ball of the hand, the heads of the metacarpals right here, sort of those base knuckles. So we can just let it shift side side. And remember, no momentum, we keep it soft, sort of a gooey, but connected, strong motion. Then we can take that, we can put one of the feet on top of the arch of the other foot, and the same thing, rocking the weight side to side. You can pick it so that the arch, you're sort of massaging the arch with the top of the other foot closer to the heel, or you can take it closer to the big toe. We'll do a couple sets of these so you can play around with that, and then I'll show you how to up the ante a little bit, make it a stronger motion. So we'll switch feet, same thing, just shifting side to side. You'll notice that my knees are approximately hip width apart, maybe a little wider. Whatever's comfortable for that. I switch my feet, the one that's on top again. And now you're going to notice that for the foot that's on the floor, you can lift that knee while you shift the weight, and that's going to give you a little more lengthening in the top of that foot on the floor. And it's also going to let the foot that's on the arch, it's going to let it burrow deeper into that arch. And this, I think, helps to open you at the tarsal bones. So your three cuneiforms, the medial, intermediate, and lateral, helps to kind of open you, maybe even all the way to the cuboid, just to get the middle of the foot to kind of open and breathe a little bit, all the way into the talus, which is kind of like it's kind of like a tertiary keystone. It's a keystone of the foot, just like we have the sacrum or the sternum. Good. Then after we've massaged those arches a little bit, now we can take the foot in dorsiflexion, so we tuck the toes under. And I like to just lift my knees a little bit to drop into the ball of the foot, and then maintaining that flex of the foot as I have my heels down. And it's not about pushing this posture. Be easy on the body. If you have to put pillows here, totally fine. I keep it dynamic personally. I don't necessarily need to put pillows, but I always need to keep it rocking, just so I don't overstretch anything. We don't want to go ever to that sensation of something needing to grip because it feels unsafe, or any tearing. We just want it to feel like a soft, easy pull and connection in the tissue. So I just rock that side to side. If that's too much, you can always sort of have it almost on all fours, just to take some weight out of the feet. Then we can also rock between that, where we come down so that this foot will be pointed. Good. While this foot comes out in front, so you're sort of making a square shape here. And we can just rock that side to side a little bit. That's just helping the pelvis to scissor like this. So we're getting an anterior tilt of my left side, posterior of my right. So this rocking side to side is actually a spiral motion. And then we can have it come around again. Notice how I do this. I transfer just from a slow weight shift in my seat. That's automatically engaging a deep core. One cue that I give for any sort of deep core engagement is just the slightest scoop of the navel in, just to make sure you're not pushing your abs out, really that you're just scooping in to get your deepest layers of your abdominals all the way to your transverse abs. So this leg will come back around. You'll notice how it's just nice and close to my body and the heels softly turning out. And we're making that nice square shape again. And we're just rocking the weight side to side. This time when I rock to this side, I get this motion in my pelvis. So I get an anterior tilt of this hip bone, forward tilt of this hip bone, while this one rolls back, and that's what spirals my heart. So we're just feeling that as a nice resonant structure. Weight shift causes primary keystone, causes secondary keystone in spirals. Easy breathing with this. Nice, slow, gooey weight shift. We can take it to another working posture where we have soles of the feet together. Sometimes I like to hold right behind the knee and I collapse in my sternum, wide bucket handles, and I sort of swing in the hoop. So as I shift my weight on my seat, I then take my sternum, take my chest over. As I shift my weight through, and it's sort of like you're swinging on the back of a bowl. Easy breathing on this. You can exhale, inhale, exhale, or you can reverse the breath where you exhale center, and then as you roll, you inhale to try to fill this whole flank. We start to use that breath as a therapeutic tool. So I can feel that when I shift to that one side, I can get breath here because I'm connecting this whole functional arm line from Tom Myers. It's helping connect me into my shoulder girdle so that I can really send the breath to open that side of the rib cage. Then I might go back to the long sit just to reinforce that opening of the hamstring. So I'll just go through this walking side to side. What I like to do is take that exercise that we did, the back body spiral for the sacrum on the bench. I like to do that in locomotion on the floor because it is the same motion. So as I shift to this side and I'm rolling forward on this sits bone, I flex this heel away and I spiral my heart and I get that same stretch down my leg. And then as I shift to this side, this heel stays right where it is and I push this one as I roll forward on this hip. And I get that nice stretch down my IT band, my hamstring, my glute complex, all the way into my low back. And I just keep the weight shifting. I use my hands to support that just so I'm not trying to pull on my low back to really sit up tall. It's not about that. It's really about rolling forward on the bones to grow tall and forward on the bones. So I'm going up the spiral staircase with my sternum and up the spiral staircase. So you'll see that I actually, as I do this, I travel forward. It is locomotive. Because locomotion, walking, running, kind of how we're walking on the butt right now, we're really walking on our feet. It's just our sits bones become our feet. They're our pedicles of our pelvis. That locomotive motion is a way to calm the nervous system, that reciprocal back and forth movement in spirals. And it helps to balance our myofascial chains. It helps to balance and open up our soft tissue, integrated with our movement. And then after I feel long in the backs of the legs, I'll go back to a similar cycle again. So I would come back to the seiza, sitting on the heels, rocking my weight back and forth. I come back to dorsiflexion if I like, rocking my weight back and forth. Really trying to go into a deeper flex. You can see I sort of start like this, and then I can deepen into that flex, keeping my weight shifting. I can come back into the seiza with one foot over the arch of the other, massaging out the arch of the bottom foot back and forth. I can do the same thing, other side. I can do it higher on my foot, closer to the heel, that part of the arch, or I can go to the more distal arch near my big toe, just under it. Sort of wherever you feel it's necessary. And one thing that Philip Beach notes is that you'll have one side that's a little more tender than the other, and that's appropriate because we're really not symmetrical. We're just trying to bring ourselves closer to a balance, a happy medium, right? I'll go back into dorsiflexion just to really work that. And then we can start to take dorsiflexion more functionally into standing, because dorsiflexion becomes, this seated dorsiflex posture becomes a posture of readiness. This is one of repose. This is one where we're ready to then act. So what we can do is we can push off the ball of this foot, swing forward, and find the ball of this foot. For me, I like to think of the head of my fourth toe as I do this, that base knuckle of my fourth toe. A lot of reasons on that later, but basically it goes up the line straight through to the fibula, through all the bones of the foot, through the metatarsal, the cuboid, calcaneus to the fibula, and it helps affect a spiral up the whole chain to spring load you. And so as we come forward, we can come back to dorsiflexion. When we do this, we can do it with the hands, just being careful. It's about keeping it slow and the gesture soft in the body. So no stutters. I have a funny right knee that I've been rehabbing with this work. So you'll notice on my body, when I come to do this side, it's a little more precarious. So I have to take my time to work that motion, but it comes along, it wakes up. And then after that, I'll always end in the long sit with this locomotive posture. You can also, just to open up, because we've been in so much hip flexion, to open that up, we can come back into the kneeling posture. We can do the front body sacrum spiral like we learned before. Just want to make sure I'm in the frame. Not so much. Good, so we can do that front body stretch in the hip. That spiral where I'm pushing off the back ball of the foot and my heart is spiraling toward the leg in front of me. That just helps me get that sort of quad adductor, adductor, psoas connection sporadically, because that's how we integrate. You can look at Tom Meyer's myofascial meridians for that. That helps to kind of open up sporadically my front body. And again, I come back to the long back body, because we so often, because we're not sitting on the floor with our hamstrings in full length, we so often, staying in this position all day in a chair, get tight, which really affects, that's really what principally affects our lower backs, turns our psoas off, it gets tight, it gets weak. So this is just a way of waking that up, waking up the locomotive healing potential of our body. And then at the end, I would just either sort of softly shift in this posture, slowly just feeling the gooiness of the movement. As you shift, you get a soft spiral of the sternum, shift and a soft spiral. And then, as the yogis teach us, a good old savasana, just let the body lie on the floor, hard surface. You can sort of undulate here. And then if you want to, you all knew this was coming, we would go to rolling again, just to make sure I'm in the frame. So we'll just start rolling back and forth on the floor. This is just to integrate all the work that we've done. Rolling for me is almost like a dynamic savasana. It gives me a chance to, in a way it's resting, because I'm not weight bearing in normal postural space. So I can make it as sort of soft and easy as I like. or I can make it more strength-based where I have a little more friction on the floor. I can really try to extend length in the body as much as I want, pushing off the feet. And then I can make it a softer gesture where it's really just about slowing down and collapsing incrementally into the floor. And then finally, we can let the windshield wipers rock a little bit. We can go back to, I sort of back it up through the primal rolling sequence. And then I'll end with the knees to chest, just slowly pulling the levers, softening my chin and lengthening my occiput, sort of the base of my skull, lengthening it up the floor, away from my pelvis. Finding easy breath. And then finally, we let that rest. And to come up, we just roll onto the side. We push up to seated. So these are some of those archetypal postures that I saw from Philip Beach that I take through oscillation to make them a little more dynamic and I think palatable to the body. So yeah, feel free to DM me if you have any questions. Next, we'll probably go towards brachiation. I'm gonna figure out a way to hang some type of bar from the beam off my ceiling, and we'll start to get into, you can do it with a pull-up bar and a little chair just to take your weight out, just so you can learn how to spiral the sternum away and towards whatever it is that you're grabbing. Because when we can start to activate that grip, that's what helps us to really integrate myofascially the rib cage and really allow us to find that opening at the tips of the shoulder blades. We're so many of us so often get very tight. It helps us to find that full integration of that whole entire posterior sling of fascia, of that myofascial chain. So yeah, brachiation I think is next, and then once we've had all these ingredients established, I think we'll start going into longer monkey body workouts. So again, I'm Drew Ricciardi. Thank you for joining me at the Monkey Body, and I will see you soon.